All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to our GSN Community Support Series. I'm Joanna Roach. I am in the...
Oh, you're muted.
With Megan.
Starts it right off.
Megan, who's manning our control box and making sure it all goes smoothly, and who'll remind me if I accidentally go on mute. So thanks today. And we have with us Jay Muller from Technogym and Teresa Flyger, who's a GSN board member, and Melissa Walker, who are both wellness experts and who are here to talk with us about a little bit about what's happening in the world of fitness. So what I'll do is have you go around and just sort of say a little bit about where you are in the country, and then a little bit about what you're bringing to the conversation, and then we'll kick off with some questions. So Jay, let's start with you.
Thank you, Joanna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good? All right, great. Hi, everybody. It's nice to talk to you all. My name is Jay Muller. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Technogym's Hospitality and Residential Division. Been with Technogym for about 13 years. It's a long time working as an expert with hospitality, fitness. I have forged tremendous relationships with those that are on this call, including our co-panelists like Hilton. I've worked with Marriott, Hyatt, have forged also relationships with a number of other top accounts in hospitality. Super excited to be part of this panel. Everybody, I hope you're all are safe and sound and contribute. Obviously, this is certainly a panel that's near and dear to my heart. Obviously, working for Technogym, living that wellness lifestyle every day, promoting that wellness lifestyle, and just an eye to the trends and working with all these great leaders in the community, from spa to fitness, to help to contribute to help you guys get ready to open, or maybe if you're open, have more discussion on how to better serve the community.
Great. Jay, will you introduce your colleague who's also on the panel?
Yeah, sure. And just
who looks like a second Jay Muller?
Yeah.
Like you're in you've cloned yourself.
Okay. Well, there could be a couple of Technogym people on the call, so and maybe a bunch of them. It must be a thing. We have a lot of us have short hair in Technogym. I've not been stricken with any disease, Melissa, as you like to say. But to all my Technogym peeps out there, if you're on, great to see you. That was Chris Rossi, who is our West Coast area director. He's been with me with Technogym for 13 years as well, so long-standing. I'm based in New York, so epicenter-esque on Long Island.
Great, thanks.
And out in San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining, Chris. Teresa.
So I have been in the spa, fitness, and wellness industry for about the past 20 years, and a lot of you are familiar faces from 15, 20 years ago. So it's really, really nice to see you, especially in these times. Worked with people right out of college, Sylvia Seppielli, then Clota, then SPA, and most recently with Hilton, and am taking the career forward with whatever the times bring. And I've really enjoyed working with all of you. So I enjoy collaborating also with GSN. I've been on the board for the last year and feel like the collaborative nature that GSN has innately is something that I really appreciate. So I encourage all of you that are part of us or on the fringe to really dive in right now while we have a little bit of time. That's what I'm is keeping me connected. So
great, thanks. And we're super excited to have Melissa join us today as well.
Yeah.
Hi everybody, my hat wants to say hello. I have been in the wellness industry for well over 20 years. I have a pretty diverse background in terms of where I've worked, and in every place I've really learned a unique perspective on how wellness is really brought to life for people. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm a personal trainer. I have worked 10 years in the Army, HUA, for those of you who have served. And then really went into more of the real estate side of wellness, bringing to life the Fitwell certification, which started at GSA and is now alive and well with the Center for Active Design. And then most recently with Hilton, where I've been able to delve into spa, which was something I had not really been able to dabble in with previous jobs. So I feel like in every instance I'm learning, in every instance I am working with new people who have amazing ideas. So it's just really awesome to just continue that journey, and who knows what is next. And I think whatever it is, it's going to be focused on well-being and health for people.
Yeah, for sure. So Jay, let's jump back to you, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're hearing in the industry as it pertains to what's happening with fitness, as sort of states start to lift restrictions and people start to think about moving back into the travel and tourism space.
Sure, thank you, Joanna. So thing I say is that we're definitely seeing wellness coming out of this is going to be so vital in the sense of building that immunity, fighting against any sort of pandemic, or just kind of coming back strong. Wellness is also going to lead to that as we've been sort of self-isolating or quarantining or sheltering in place, the mental wellness aspect, getting into the fitness routine is helping to that. We've seen some numbers come back out of surveys in the UK. It said something like 63% are valuing fitness and wellness to help them fight and prepare themselves for the phase after this, phase 1 or phase 2, wherever phase we're in. But also 67%, so almost 70%, think it's helping them with their mental wellness as well. So wellness is important. We're also seeing this, I say it's kind of hand in hand with the consumer side, the digital side of wellness. I thought I saw a statistic that said consumer sales of fitness are up about over 300% right now. So if you can find me a kettlebell, I'll have to get on one, because these things are, it's just tough to get our hands on fitness and wellness tools. If you need anything from Technogym, I'm happy to help, of course. But the advent of getting back into the home routine and working out from home and the consumer side of business, I think digital, we're watching, for me, I'm watching mom learn in digital, through distance learning. We're seeing folks that are now taking part in, that had historically gone to fitness classes live in the studio, to now participating through Instagram Live, Facebook, YouTube. And I think that trend is, from what I sat on a global wellness summit discussion today, and they talked about how that trend, it's starting to skew to see that clubs are going to have to start to shift. And they're already talking about the wellness on the go. Where we've heard that before, it's been Technogyms, a little self-promotion, but since 2011, the wellness on the go strategy, and how you can, connect in the gym, but also at the home, and putting the end user, that member or that resident or that guest, at the epicenter of the journey. So we're seeing them reach out and build, everything from $10 a month to $50 a month subscriptions in the future for building upon wellness. I don't want to monopolize all the time here, so I'd love to hear from Melissa, Teresa.
Yeah, Teresa, why don't we jump to you?
You're going to me. Yeah. So I think that we're going to see a lot of people very skeptical about the cleanliness of gyms, and that's just, kind of a no-brainer that they will opt for the outdoor app, or, Run Walk, that, is already a bit out there in the hospitality industry. And then also, there is talk of gyms having limited numbers of guests within the space. That could become difficult with smaller spaces. You may not, if you're going to keep a safe distance, you may not be able to allow more than 2 or 3 people into some of these gyms that hotels have. So I think that in-room will become very, very important, and I think people will develop a loyalty to an app that they know, be it, whatever they're focused on, Pilates or yoga or meditation or, hardcore boot camp stuff, high intensity workouts, whatever their thing is. I think that people are going to be gravitating towards what they find most important in their life to keep a routine going, because I think that what humans are craving right now is routine. Everything has been a little bit disrupted, as we know. So going back to a routine that they find comforting, I think will be something that we find is a trend. And in the midst of the COVID, I think that what brands are keen on doing, and I've seen a lot of them doing it, including Technogym, offering the free app, and then, later on economizing upon that, as you get a following. I mean, Netflix does this, Amazon does it. You offer a free kind of membership at first, and then you get beyond it, because I think we'll get beyond these economic difficulties and then be able to afford something that we've already developed a loyalty to. But I have a funny little story for you guys. It was, kind of in the first of this pandemic stuff, when we're all getting used to face masks and whatnot. And I'm in a high rise in DC. So I go to get on an elevator, and there's two guys, like huge dudes with big masks. And they're standing in there with another scared person in the corner. And I am like, no, I'll take the next car, guys. See you later. So then I walked down the stairs, down to the 6th floor where the gym is located. And that one of the big guys that was like, just charging down on the elevator, he was running out of the gym. He had darted in beyond the barricade to the gym and pulled out like 2 25-pound weights and was hauling them off to his apartment. And I was like, well, nobody else is using them. So I think people are definitely going to find a way to work out. It's just, how do we engage them, and how do we actually get back an economization of the fitness industry? Because, there has to be a bit of a backing to that. I've heard that there are some hotel chains that are putting plastic over every other treadmill so you can be 6 feet apart. Some are actually saying, well, we have low occupancy, so we will take some hotel rooms and make them into personal gyms. Mm-hmm. So I think there's just going to be kind of a hodgepodge of how we solve this.
Okay. Melissa, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think I agree with everything that Jay and Teresa have put out there. I have observed that just in my own neighborhood, I'm seeing just a lot of people that we probably traditionally don't think are exercisers exercising. And I think that is something that we're going to see a lot in hospitality, where people are realizing that exercise matters. And it's not just a matter of, looking a certain way or having a certain amount of strength or, competition, finishing the marathon. It's really about survival, right? And we know that with this virus, in particular, that people who exercise regularly have a better chance of surviving if they are infected. I know, having talked to many people in my neighborhood from a safe distance, that they are exercising for the first time in 25, 30 years. Are they jogging, running, sweating? No, they're out walking, and they're walking a lot, and they're walking frequently. And I've been looking into the blue zones that are scattered about the world. And I think one of the most interesting correlations between the blue zone folks that are living 100 years healthfully and this kind of new situation that we're in is that it's not about how hard you necessarily go. It's how you incorporate movement and exercise into your daily life. And I think hospitality is going to have to figure out how they offer that opportunity to people who are on the road, who aren't necessarily going to fall into the normal gym goer that is in a hotel gym. So from my perspective, I think we have a challenge on both ends. We need to figure out how to operationalize the gyms and make them safe as best we can, but also how do we offer that opportunity for people who now have embraced exercise from more of a survival perspective and give them those opportunities to circulate and move around the hotel, outside of the hotel, just to maintain just normal health.
That's a really great point. So you're thinking that there's going to be a new group of people who are going to be engaged in this exercise while traveling. Yes. I don't know if you can hear me.
I'm back. I don't know where I dropped off, but
that's okay. We have these little glitches. So what I was just saying to you, so you're observing that there's going to be a new group of people who are emerging as a market as a result of this, the people who weren't exercising before.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about the averages that we see in gyms, right, about 22% of Americans have gym memberships. And then there's debate about how often those memberships are actually used. I know from our industry, you know, if we can capture 14-15% of guests that are staying at a hotel, that's decent. So I think, you know, there are a whole number of people who are looking to start.
So we'll go to our next question, which is, I'm interested to know what the group thinks about long and short-term impacts, right? So sorry, Melissa, you cut out just a little bit at the end, but we'll go to the—
I know. Sorry, guys.
I think you're muted, Joanna.
And short-term impacts, and specifically with regard to cleaning and social distancing. What are you hearing about, Jay?
So I think Teresa started to tap into that a little bit, talking about maybe spacing, short term. You know, I've heard everything of taking the power cords out of every other cardio machine in the line. I did hear about also, you know, if you have a unused hotel room, making it a little workout pod or even a little spa pod as well. So definitely from that perspective, all those things that Teresa are saying, I think it's definitely going to be, you know, a lot in terms of trying to minimize the amount of short term, minimize the touch points. And again, keeping, you know, do you have to consider the amount of people that are accessing the space? Long term though, I think we are toying around with some innovative concepts through our wellness team back at Italy and in headquarters, coming up with innovative concepts that are just, again, purely conceptualization in terms of developing pods that would be even in the space, you know, trying to prevent these droplets in the airflow and things getting on others. So I think short term, we're going to take some immediate actions in the sense of, you know, hospitality. We'll be looking at trying to maintain the numbers and appropriately space equipment. I think also there's going to be a strong sense of, I know from my experience, if I'm as a business traveler week in, week out, who uses the fitness facilities of all these great hotels and brands, I'll take the onus on myself though to make sure I'm doing the due diligence to wipe down a machine myself as well. So I'd definitely like to have the access to, you know, the types of wipes or cleaning supplies that I can ensure that I'm not, you know, touching. I've heard even people talk about wear and gear, maybe providing additional wear and gear or masks or other solutions as well, gloves as well. So yeah, but long term, I mean, I have to think that we as a population tend to have a little bit of that short term, that memory loss, and we snapping right back into our wellness experiences the way we always did. Again, maybe just under the vein of more safety and more cleanliness, and we'll still see the numbers come back in a solid way in the hospitality on the fitness side. It might be a long road to get there, but I do envision, I don't see myself ever slowing down when I'm back to traveling, you know, not utilizing the great fitness facilities. It's important to me, as Melissa said, it's important to a good cluster of of the Hilton guests, and exciting for us too to know that, you know, we're going to be able to tap into an entire different, you know, cluster of new age travelers that are looking to tap into wellness in many different avenues. And I think digital will play a big role in that. and just open up the doors for many more opportunities to tap into it as partners, supplier and buyer side, to co-market, to further enhance the offering from a wellness perspective.
Teresa, do you want to weigh in?
Oh yeah, I'm going to weigh in on that. I think I already talked about this social distancing and then the cleanliness. So I already addressed that, but what I would pose as a possibility is that people are going to desire connectivity a lot like the Peloton platform for having interactivity that's socially distanced. So you can actually compete, you can actually have that sort of interaction. I think that there's going to be a good demand for that because we're just, craving that connectivity. And that would probably be the biggest thing for me is how do we connect people that are working out alone and still want to kind of be together in some realm. And I think apps do that to a certain degree. I think that the T Wellness that you guys are doing, Jay, I think it's really nice. I need to start using it more because I've been a bit too much of a couch potato over the last few weeks, but yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Teresa.
Did you say Melissa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I moved to a new location in my house, so hopefully I have better connectivity at this point. But Joanna, the question was, can you just repeat the question?
What, in terms of short and long-term impact with social distancing, how do you see that impacting your operations?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest issues is we're going to have to look at unattended gyms, right? I mean, the majority of our gyms and the majority of our hotels are unmanaged or unmanned. There is nobody in there. So I think we're going to have to take a look at that and see if that's still a viable business model to have a space that likely is an area within the hotel that is going to be seen, right or wrong, as a transmission potential, right? With touching of dumbbells and handles and all that. So I think we're going to have to look at that. I think to kind of reiterate what Teresa and Jay said, I think, signage is going to have to change where we at least alert people to wipe down their equipment before and after. You can't trust that the person prior to you wiped off the dumbbells. So I think there's going to have to be different signage that we put in, and even potentially just different, in general for hotels, liability and waivers that people are going to have to sign. I think there's a really a possibility that if you want to use our gym, you may have to sign a waiver that says, you're using this gym at your own risk.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing some of the same sort of thoughts in terms of waivers and insurance, and having people may have to sign a waiver when they're checking in. Yep. But let's stay with you, Melissa, and talk a little bit cleaning supplies, because folks in the chat are all wanting to talk a little bit about cleaning supplies. And what kind of supplies should people use, and are there going to be enough of them? And as we gear up to reopening, how do you make sure you're ready to go, right?
Yeah, so right before, when this was all kind of hitting hard and heavy, we had an internal debate about what is most important, ensuring that you're killing the virus or potentially killing the machine in the case of a very expensive piece of cardio, or do you try to focus on cleaning supplies that protect the equipment but are also known to be effective against the virus, even though maybe it's not as common as bleach or chlorine or other things. So, our standard has always been the 2XL gym wipes because of the fact that they are effective at cleaning, but they also don't crack your upholstery. They don't crack the foam handles on the equipment. They don't cloud the cardio consoles so that people can't see the content. That equipment is expensive. And my guidance prior to kind of the worst of this was, if you can't ensure that you're protecting your investment, then close the gym. Because the protocols that they were using for other parts of the building were definitely not things that we would normally recommend cleaning your $10,000 treadmill with. But on the other hand, if you're that worried about infection rates, then it's probably best to keep the gym closed until which time you can get the appropriate types of cleaning supplies to do both. So I think still going to be the raging debate out there as to whether surfaces, or do you follow the guidelines from the fitness industry where we're also protecting your assets?
I'm not really sure that the right research has necessarily been done on that. I mean, everything that we've, certainly here at GSN have been reading and seeing.
Muted.
Oh, sorry, is that bleach is not necessarily the best cleaning agent. Because if you've wiped down something with bleach and someone touches it, there's no surface life of the clean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing some testing too.
I'd love to hear what you have to say, Jay. Go.
Yeah, cool. Certainly the 2X wipes that Melissa just referenced, and we also threw out, we put out our guidelines for cleaning, which I could share with you, Joanna, which you can then cascade out to the team here. But also Pure Green 24 is another sort of eco-friendly, but in the spirit of disinfecting. So there's two solutions. We're also, in the evaluation, I think, right now we're looking at things in terms of what is safe from fogging aspect as well. So I know I saw some communication internally at Technogym, even as late as this morning, I believe, continuing to evaluate more and more solutions. We have experience, obviously, on board many, many cruise ships. We work with a lot of the maritime partners who are no stranger to viruses, norovirus, et cetera. So, feel very confident that because they'll use, I don't know exactly what the solution they use, but sometimes in the incident of a viral outbreak on board, they definitely spray everything down and around. So, we're continuing to evaluate all solutions, but 2XL wipes and the Pure Green 24. And sometimes you just need to do a little bit of extra elbow grease on those consoles, those touch screens, because they can be I'd say the minimal, there's very limited alcohol content in any of that stuff, but leaves a little bit of a streak. So, at the luxury level, you want to make sure you're showing pristine, consoles, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about the concept, guys, of being able to book a fitness machine? Right. There's been some suggestion that you would have a sign-up sheet and you'd be able to somehow reserve your treadmill or your weight workout, in advance. How do folks feel about that? Anybody want to take that question?
I'll jump in here because in my apartment complex here, I've actually suggested that to Basuto, which operates, a lot of the DMV area apartment complexes. And they haven't taken that up because it's been a DC mandated thing that we close the public areas. But my suggestion was, why don't we actually have a sign-up sheet for courtyards, for pools, for gyms, and everyone kind of gets their time slot. That, of course, kind of fell on deaf ears, but I think that could be an idea that takes us forward, where you have a limited amount of people within a space. It's an amenity that should be, free for all, but, pick your time slot and go for it, I think would be the way to go. Because it's, it can't be an all or nothing, I think, for the rest of the summer, the year for people, or they're just going to go bonkers. So I think in hotels as well, and hospitality, that we should have an ability to say, I can sign up for what I want to, this is my dinner reservation and this is my treadmill reservation. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. And do you think hotels will be worried about having to have additional staff to manage?
Yes, that's the thing. That's the catch, is how do you staff this and mandate it?
Right.
And I think that's where we're at, where we have limited CapEx. So how do you bring in extra housekeeping, extra staff to just, monitor what's going on in terms of activity? How do we know if there's 3 or 9 people in that gym that's limited to 3, right?
And I think it will be the same thing with pools, right? Because for properties that have pools, you're not going to want 50 people around the pool. And what are the cleanliness issues around pools?
Exactly.
Right. Right. So what do you think the impact to your budgets is going to be when as we approach the reopening? Melissa, do you have thoughts on that?
I do have thoughts, and I can't speak for the folks in our organization that are actually planning the ramp up. So this is just my own ramblings inside my noggin. But I think we have to be realistic that it's not. I don't think we're going to see gyms and spas open right away. Hospitality is not going to go from less than 10% occupancy back up to 84% occupancy overnight. It's going to be a very, kind of flat, kind of increase, I think, over quite a few months. And I think, operators are going to have to decide that right now, I don't have the occupancy to support keeping a gym open if I need to hire an extra person to maintain the cleanliness and the oversight of the gym. So I think those are going to be the things that people are going to have to balance out. And I think it's probably going to be something around having a metric of, some level of occupancy that is your target. And when that target is hit over a certain amount of time, you then have the resources to open up your amenities to serve the folks that are in your hotel. Before that, it just makes no sense. It makes no sense to go those extra steps from a staffing perspective, or take the risk of not having the extra staff if you're only at 20, 25% occupancy. And I don't even know if those numbers are, those are just examples. I mean, we just don't know where it's going to go. We don't know how many people are going to start traveling simply because social distancing and government shutdowns are starting to subside.
Right. Right. And I think right now, some of the trends that we're seeing be reported, and I'm sure you guys are too, is that, regional and domestic travel will be much stronger than any kind of international travel, in that people, car travel will be, at least through the summer, more popular than air travel.
Yeah. That's what I heard, that a colleague of mine from SPA was saying, that in China, they're finding car travel and roadside hotels are getting the uptick way more so than your luxury fly-in, stay at, a luxe property and fly out is seeing.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, if you think about the reality of what people are going to be comfortable with as they begin to transition back to some new normal, it's not going to be in a, 1,000-room New York City hotel with bars and restaurants and all sorts of social gatherings. It's going to be, I need to get to point A to point B to see family. I'm going to stop at a roadside. I'm in my car. I'm going to be in my room, in my control. And I just don't see it right away being back towards those, very, social type settings within hotels.
Yeah.
Right. Jay, this is a question for you. What do you think the impact is going to be on smaller studios, right? That, even if they're like chain types, right? But say it's a studio that has 25 or 30 stations, if you will. But I'm not sure that I'm hearing or seeing that people will rush back to those environments simply because they're by necessity small.
So you're talking about like the boutique fitness studios of the world?
Yeah.
Well, before I get to that, just wanted to just circle back for
Sure.
a second on because it was a question from the group about booking, and technology like that does it today. So, I think as Teresa appropriately said, is the booking of a treadmill would be very well received operationally. Is probably still been part of the challenge, and then just even carrying over to Melissa's point, once, I do agree that it's going to take some time, but I hope that over that time, that, we've amassed here on Green Spa Network and all the various spas, especially iSpa Association as well, but the ability to be a strong community. And our voice is super important, especially if you're a resort spa or you're a spa inside of a hotel and you're linking that wellness journey to the guest experience or to the local community to attract. And it's so important that, that owners and developers have often just looked at fitness equipment or the fitness space as just a CapEx refresh and an asset turned over every X number of years. So I hope that, with all of this, say all this time off, that we're seeing so many of the great voices in spa today, are collectively accumulating information to bring that forward to your owners, your stakeholders, to be the voice that ties that message, to make us all feel safe, so that when we're on the way back, that we can feel comfortable. As far as the boutique studios, gosh, I'm an avid participant of these types of studios, and I really want to see what methods there come back to me, right? I think, going from multi-floor space, co-sharing immediacy is going to be like treadmill one and floor space one assign me, but I'm sharing that with some complete stranger that in the past, as icky as it may sound, you're jumping on somebody else and it is what it is. And you're like, give me, the music as long as the intensity workout is high. And I had a great time. That was the experience. As I said, these words in cleanliness are going to start to really prevail and creep into our minds. But so I think they're the ones that are going to have to come, with the sort of innovative concepts. Is it limiting the number of people? Is it just you have your treadmill, you have your floor space? But I do believe that people miss that, because that's, as we talked about the isolation and the self-quarantining, you can get a great workout at home digitally and through Instagram. Is that community truly love, that beat, that soul that we all part of, that we sort of thrive off of, if that's your thing. Again, it's not for everybody. That's why, it's not to say that if you're a boutique fitness studio participant, you're the world's fittest person, or that means that you are incredibly fit. It's just your modality. It's your mechanism. It's your outlet to enjoy fitness. As we've heard people that go in for walks today, I'm looking outside right now and I see, a number of people walking through the community. And if that's what wellness is for you, super. We want people to live a healthy life, and you got to tap into that. So, kind of off a little bit of a soapbox, but I think the boutiques in general have a bit of maybe more cleanliness theater for us all to bring us back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does okay, great. I've got another question, which is, what do you guys think is the biggest opportunity and the biggest challenge that this is presenting us? Right? Maybe we'll go reverse. We'll start with you, Melissa.
I think the biggest opportunity for those of us that have been in this industry and are so passionate about it is the fact that we have headwinds every time we talk about, incorporating wellness from start to finish, from dreaming and booking to, checking out. And as Jay said, I think this is now the opportunity to shift that mindset away from just looking at wellness as an amenity, which is a cost, to something that is really going to attract loyalty and confidence from consumers. I mean, the group that proceeds out of the gate with, an offering that people are comfortable with, that they feel safe participating in, that is holistic, that includes more than just fitness, because we know how important nutrition is to boost the immune system, how mental wellness is, and self-care. I mean, it's now probably more than ever the opportunity to really bring together those concepts in a way that's going to finally resonate with the people who are the asset managers of these properties, who typically don't care about that. They're looking at dollars, they're looking at spreadsheets, and they're looking at their accountant, and now it's life or death for them. If they don't get their customers back, if they don't get the occupancy up and gain that confidence of the consumer, then these hotels will shutter. They'll close down. So I think now more than ever, it's going to be the golden era of wellness for hospitality. It was heading that way anyways, but now I just see it as just a massive opportunity. The difficulty, I think, will be in how we communicate, how we market, how we really share with the consumer what we're doing, how we're doing it, and building that confidence between what is actually happening on property to the guest that is trying to make a decision. Do I travel or do I stay home?
Right. Teresa.
Yeah, building on that, just what Melissa said, something that's been happening in my local community has been a company called Power for Life. And I must say it's a little bit hokey because these fitness instructors, they don't have like a movie set place that they're instructing from. They're literally working from their home. And so, you know, their living rooms are not film sets. But, you know, you can do Zumba, you can do yoga, you can do like a boot camp. And I think that the brand loyalty that communicates to me makes me more apt to support the small business, which I think we're all kind of feeling a little heartstrings towards. So supporting your local community with something that is giving to you in the midst of a crisis is something that I think will definitely boost the bottom line in the end. I think that's a big opportunity. And
Jane?
I don't know, you know, how they're actually stacking up right now, but I think in the end it pays off on the long dividend.
Jay, your thoughts?
Great, thanks, Joanna. I just kind of circling back to a word I said in sort of in the beginning, but is I think really meaningful partnerships. I think more so than ever, this is a huge opportunity for us as suppliers, partners, partnering. And what I mean by that is really at the core of the guest experience, looking at the various touch points, getting it right, you know, putting the guest at the very central of the aspect, from, you know, tapping into them during their hotel stay, you know, making sure that they're well back at home so that they can come back to you and stay with you from a loyalty perspective, you know, some meaningful touch points, you know, connecting with their daily movement. So I really believe, you know, forging, you know, solid partnerships is a huge opportunity for us, Technogym, but also with the operators as well, to listen to, and you know, how can we serve you better, you know, with you know, more open ears. Again, and considering that the fact that we have to hope that as Melissa said, that the owners, the asset managers are listening more to the spa and the leadership voice of this community. Difficulties, I mean, I think we've tapped on a number of them from the concerns, and Melissa is right, and cleanliness and just getting people back. It will be it's not going to be a rocket ship in terms of hockey stick in terms of getting back. I think I talked to a gentleman, Bruce Ford from Lodging Econometrics, a couple of weeks ago, who said that if we can get back to, you know, this same time next year, where we're hovering around 60% occupancy in hotels, you know, we will have weathered this storm really well. So I think that's a, you know, a nice benchmark, well, a benchmark, not benchmark, but it is a benchmark to look to. But it's going to take a long time to get there. So, but it's what happens next, and how can we all work together.
Mm-hmm. Have getting a couple of questions coming through the chats and the Q&A. Has anyone seen, outside of what iSpa has released in terms of standards, specific fitness standards for reopening? I know, Jay, you may have mentioned earlier on that you had some things you might want to share.
Yeah, I mean, from our standpoint, I mean, we definitely have built out our cleaning guidelines, which again will share with you, Joanna. You know, I have not really seen anything, because I honestly haven't really looked in terms of other organizations in fitness. Like URSA is certainly an organization that's something to tap into, and I'm certain they're probably, you know, tackling that. If anybody has seen something like that, please feel free to share. But iSpa has sort of started to lead that charge, and we just want to make sure that we have, you know, somewhat of a singular voice from our world. But yeah,
Great.
That's it.
Question also about masks. Do you think that either hospitality outlets or hotel gyms or even front desks at hotels should be offering PPE like that for folks who don't have it? And what are the benefits of wearing it or not benefits of wearing it during exercise? Anyone can take
Melissa?
that.
I'll throw that to Melissa. She got the
Thank you,
military
Jay.
background.
Or gear out and put my gas mask on. No, I mean, I think in the short term, PPE is going to be something that people are going to look towards, available at any outlet. Whether you go, if you don't have your own, if you go get your hair cut, you're going to expect your salon to have a mask available if you request one. Whether you're wearing it or maybe your stylist is not and you want them to wear one, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of that where, you know, I'm wearing one, but I also think you should wear one. There'll be a lot of give and take with that. I think there's still going to be a lot of issues with being able to get a hold of it from a supply perspective. I mean, there's still a lot of indication that even our first responders are still having a difficult time. So for every hotel to have an adequate supply of masks available to guests, it's going to be a disposable thing where every time they leave their room, they're going to get a new one. That's a lot of masks. And I just don't know if at this point, at least in the short term, that's the best use of the PPE if our first responders are still having a difficult time getting them. So I think it's just going to have to be something that either, you know, people bring their own, the ones that, you know, we've all seen people making masks, you know, on YouTube and everything, and the clever ways that you can do that. But yeah, for us to supply, I think it's going to be just difficult from a supply logistical standpoint, but I think it will be an expectation that those are available.
Yeah. Or, I mean, so either that they're available or you have to bring their own. You have to bring their own, right?
Yeah.
Because many states have a wear a mask requirement if you're outside your own home at this point.
I want a mask that has your hat on it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I need that smile all the
That's
time.
right. Because it'll be right across your mouth. So
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to make the general announcement to our audience. We have a little bit more time for Q&A. So if you have anything that we should be chatting about that we haven't already, please type it into the inbox and we will continue to answer your questions. But it's really just a pleasure to have you all on the panel and get to hear your thoughts and expertise. Like, really, thank you for joining us today. Is there anything that anybody wants to share? Anything else, a thought that we haven't covered or a question that we haven't come up with? Don't all jump at once. Somebody. I know we're in a challenging time, but it has been, I think, really valuable to be able to come together as a group and just do this like brainstorm conversation piece, which I think is helpful to many.
For sure. And I actually am intrigued to read the chats that have been coming through that I haven't been able to absorb. But something that my sister, who works out at OHSU in PhD research, sent to me from The Guardian today. I thought this was really interesting. It was talking about the etymology of the words that we use, you know, in terms of crisis and how we emerge and what those words mean. But what really grasped my interest was a paragraph that said this. And so I quote from The Guardian: "We have reached a crossroads. We have emerged from what we assumed was normality. Things have suddenly overturned. One of our main tasks now, especially those of us who are not sick, are not frontline workers, and are not dealing with other economic or housing difficulties, is to understand this moment, what it might require of us, and what it might make possible." Mm-hmm. And what it might make possible was really what, you know, kind of interested me, because it's like, you know, we are really consumed with what it's not making possible. We can't do this, we can't do that, but what is it making possible? So I think if we can take that away from this experience and dwell on that, maybe it gives us a little hope.
Right. What is that old, isn't it the Benjamin Franklin quote that said, necessity is the mother of invention?
Seriously.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We are getting a couple other questions. One in particular, which is about the future for personal trainers. What do you guys see the future of personal trainers looking like? I think that's a great question too.
Yeah, I bet you're a good one for that. Or,
yeah.
Melissa, go ahead.
Melissa, let's start with you.
So I think, the kind of personalization that, give me one moment. My internet's flubbing up. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It gave me warning this time. It said I'm unstable. I'm like, well, how did you know? So, I think as I've been a personal trainer for 8+ years, and kind of seeing the ebb and flow of how, do you touch your client? Do you not touch your client? Do you point out like technique by physically moving their bodies? And of course, all that's around like you have to ask permission as you get to know your client. That's kind of, changes. But I think you're just going to see a more distanced approach to personal training. I think you're going to see that social distancing. You're still going to have the coaching. You're still going to have the motivation. You're still going to have that great insight into your workout of the day that is really personal training so effective and exciting. All that will still be there. I just think you're going to see a little bit more respect for personal space. Probably personal trainers will definitely be wearing masks. I think, in a high respiration type setting, they'll probably ask their client to wear a mask. So I think, those types of things. And someone asked, can you really exercise effectively in a mask? No, you can't, it kind of depends on what you're doing, but if you're exercising with a very high respiration rate and your mouth and nose are covered, you're not going to be able to exercise to the same capacity. So that has to be an expectation in terms of, if you are wearing a mask as a personal trainer and or client, that you probably want to think about the types of workouts that you're asking them to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, and thank you for that, Melissa, too. I was thinking about, what we're seeing today with, the boutique fitness studios who are now doing their classes online through Instagram stories, et cetera. So, they're still able to attract and retain and keep a member base going forward. So I think, even if we think about the safety of the personal trainer early on, it's like going back to the fitness facility, the club, or wherever they are, they possibly have now found a new way, a new mechanism to be able to connect with their client in a different way, by way of tapping in through Zoom or leveraging technology. So, will there be personal training memberships, that are not just, in the studio, in the club, but also now at home? There could be a whole new monetization scheme for that. So I think, technology is going to be a huge role in the future for how personal training plays out, not only in the one-to-one interaction and having access to the information and being able to coach better, but at the same time, tapping into their client or the client to trainer need via digital. So I think some barriers have been broken, forcibly due to this quarantining. So, I think that's a positive thing, actually, very, very positive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that is probably a wrap for this afternoon. Thank all of you, really. Thank you all for your time this afternoon and your expertise. I think it's been a great conversation. Thank you, Megan, for working the controls for us.
Thank you.
We will send this out in an e-blast. So for those of folks who want to share it with anybody.
Well, you're muted.
There I go. Jay, I'll take your guidelines that you're going to send me, and I'll put it in the e-blast too, so folks who are listening can have it.
And we'll also include the chat, because I think the chat is pretty valuable too, and people included links, so we'll make sure that's in there as well.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Green Spa.
Have
Thank
a
you,
great
Joanna.
day.
Thank you, Megan.
See you next Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.